So, Joe Middleton from the Woodland Trust. Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
How was it that I guessed that would be where you're from?
It must be something to do with the trees. I walk around everywhere holding these.
Do you? Not just today. You're giving these away if people make a pledge with you, aren't you?
Yes, so people have to pledge to sign up to our Woodland Charter. Now that charter is essentially like a massive petition. So we've collated about 50,000 stories over the last few years to get people to contribute back to our relationship with woods, and also talk about why these guys are actually quite important. So,
you know what? I could get my phone out. In fact, I might. Should I tell you why? There's a good reason for this. So I've got a nice phone. I'm going to just get it turned on, which is always a challenge. And I do have something on here, which is relevant to this right now. And it's an app. So if you have a smartphone, for free, you can get the Woodland Trust app. It just goes on your phone like that. And you can identify trees. It's a bit like the Shazam of trees, if that makes any sense. Shazam identifies music. This app from the Woodlands Trust will help you work out what trees you've come across. So if you see the leaves and you're not quite sure what they belong to, or you see some of the fruits on them, or the blossom, or you can just make out some other markings from it, then this is a great way of being able to tell what you've got. Tell us more about this.
okay, right, well, written on here it says, as your phone correctly identified just then, that we've got a rowan tree. And on this one, we can correctly identify that we've got an oak. So we're giving away these free trees, one, because we think they're pretty good and they're pretty amazing. But actually, in this kind of world we're living in at the moment, it's a little bit crazy, let's be honest, politically, Donald Trump and climate change. If someone came along and said, I've got this thing, right? If you plant it in the ground, it will give you oxygen to breathe. It'll improve pollution in your city. It'll stop flooding. It'll improve your health and well-being, and if you plant loads of them in an area, they'll make you feel a lot better by able to walk in that woodland. So the people would bite your hand off if they came along with this invention. However, they're here, they're all around us, and we think they're pretty good. So we want people to pledge to commit, to look after trees, plant more trees, and actually try and protect the woodlands that we still have in the UK.
In a funny way, we've come to take them for granted, I think, haven't we? You know, you're lucky if you grow up and you see them. I know you're not taking them for granted because you're working hard to preserve them and conserve them and replenish them. But we kind of just tend to think they're just going to be there. But actually, I was reading on your website that the UK has far fewer trees on average than our European neighbours.
Yes, you've done your homework. I'm very impressed. So in the UK, we only have 12% woodland cover. So out of the whole of the 100% of land mass, only 12% is wooded. Now only 2% is ancient woodland. So actually, there's a very, very small amount of protected broadleaf woodland full of all those wonderful plants, flora, fauna that also kind of lives with it, like the fungi, like the barn owls and the hedgerows and everything else, from foxes to badgers to fungi. Everything else needs that relationship that develops over hundreds of years. So we're trying to protect our ancient woodlands as well as plant more, because we need a lot more woodland cover.
Yeah, it's the whole environment, the whole space around them, isn't it? When we're talking about ancient woodlands, it's everything else that over so many years has grown, has become a part of that habitat, a part of that entire space that you can't just replace by putting a new tree in the ground. You know, it takes time.
Yeah, exactly. And our ancient woodland, bearing in mind we've only got 2% in the UK, that's still not protected. So the government hasn't actually protected our ancient woodland. There are loopholes that allow you to destroy it. So what we're trying to do at the Woodland Trust is sign people up to the charter, and also try and get people to sign petitions that make sure when developers and planners plan in areas that you can't just chop down trees and plant another couple. It's not that simple. So we need to plant more trees and in the right place, and many, many more of these beautiful, wonderful creations.
Just thinking, if you've got a garden and you're thinking I could put a tree in there, obviously this is a bit of a wide question, so there could be many answers depending on the type of soil, the size of your garden, etc. But what would be a good simple one to start with in your garden?
So, in our tent, there's a big selection of different trees. Now, you don't want to plant an oak. No, you want a woodland or a bit of land to plant an oak.
Because they're really big.
They're big, they grow old, and they're going to be there for a long time. Now, we've got the kind of medium-sized trees. So we've got silver birches and rowan trees. These are a bit more smaller, delicate. You can leave them in a kind of trug pot for a few years, and then you probably need a bit of a bigger space, and they'll be about 20 feet high. But we also have Over our tent, lots of experts to help you guide. And we've got hazel trees and we've got dogwood trees, and they stay more kind of shrub-like, and you can prune them. We've even got crab apples, so you can start your very own kind of apple orchard in your own garden.
Crab apples is a really nice choice, actually, because they have lovely blossoms.
Yeah, just don't eat them. They're not that tasty.
No, that's
Or
true.
you can have really miniature amounts of cider. You can start a mini cider factory with your crab apple.
With your miniature golf ball-sized crab apples, probably smaller than that. Are all trees equal in terms of what they do for the environment?
Yeah.
I mean, a leylandii is good, because they grow really fast and lots of people have them.
Controversial leylandii. Leylandis are good. They do turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. However, you'll find a lot of people who do not like you if you plant a wall of leylandii, because they go mental. Leylandii actually originally comes from something called a Monterey cypress and another tree. And at Bishop's Knoll, up in Stoke Bishop, the other side of the Downs, we have a Monterey tree, which is like a leylandii's parent. It is huge. I mean, an absolute monster. And leylandii will get that big if you leave them.
Yeah, you are going to have a job of having to do some cutting at some point if you've got one of those. Actually, just mentioning that spot that you were just talking about, that's a great place to go for a walk that people might not have been to.
Yes, so Bishop's Knoll is just the other side of the Downs. It backs on to our neighbours, the Wildlife Trust. They've got the Wales along Bennett's Patch on the Portway, and all above it, along that woodland edge, is Bishop's Knoll. Bishop's Knoll is a kind of, it's like a lost Victorian garden. There's these beautiful terraces, about 8 or 9 huge walled terraces with gazebos, arboretums, that have all been there for the last kind of 200 years, but have been lost under like undergrowth. It's a bit like Bristol's kind of lost gardens of Heligan.
I love going there. You know, it can be a very quiet spot, because actually, when I went there, I didn't see anyone else.
Yeah, no, it's well visited, but like most woodlands, you can walk around a wood and not see anyone for hours because the trees are in the way. Can't see the people for the trees.
Oh, that's very good. I tell you what, we've just been past one of my favourite times to go in the woodlands, and that's with all the bluebells. I mean, when they come out, they are just stunning. That carpet of beautiful purpley blue and the scent. Where are some of your other favourite spots to go to that people may well be able to visit?
So my favourite is probably Tower House Wood in Wraxall. That also has amazing amounts of bluebells and wood anemones, but also it's got a sculpture trail. So it's really good for families and kids. You can park down on the trout fishing lakes, a place called Jacklan's Fishing Lakes in Nailsea. Park there, get a cup of tea and a chocolate cake, and then walk up to the wood. And there's 15 stone sculptures all spread throughout Tower House Wood, all around. And that's great for bluebells. And the other best place is Greyfield Wood. If you head out to High Littleton on the A37, straight up the Wells Road, keep going, and then you get to High Littleton. It's full of bluebells, and there's a secret waterfall hidden right out the back of the woods.
I feel we should mention something that's forthcoming, because you've got to wait another year for bluebells. What's the next big thing that often draws people into woodlands? I mean, I like going in there because they're just beautiful, quiet places often to go to.
Well, they're good all summer round. We've kind of got to the end of bird nesting season, but actually it's kind of butterfly time. So a lot of our woodland glades will be full of silver-washed fritillaries, speckled woods, brimstones, lots of peacocks all flying around. And then, of course, give it a couple of months and we'll be into autumn and that beautiful kind of copper array of wonderful colours.
Yeah, we are so lucky here, aren't we, just to be able to go to some of these places. Somewhere else that I went, you mentioned about sculpture trails in woodlands, Stoke Park as well. You know, you can walk out in the open fields, but then you can also go through woodlands there and see some of the sculpture.
Yeah, I've got family who live next door in Lochleys, and we take my nieces over quite often to go and see those wonderful wooden sculptures. There's a legendary man called Steve England who will definitely show you a really nice kind of walk around Stoke Park.
If Steve England is anywhere in the vicinity, he will be here in a matter of seconds. He is Mr. Stoke Park. Guaranteed, if he appears, he'll be carrying some kind of food that he's foraged as well. He's often seen wearing a woolly hat. That man is like an encyclopedia of nature, wildlife. Certainly, everything he knows about Bristol and fossils. He's got an immense knowledge.
He is. I mean, he grew up in the kind of Lochleys area, and I grew up in the Horfield area as well. So we're both kind of fighting the nature fight for all Bristolians and trying to do our little bit, try and look after our kind of wildlife in the city.
Well, it's really nice to meet you, Joe. Thank you so much. The Woodlands Trust, whereabouts are you so people can come and get a tree, have a chat, see what might work in their garden?
Well, we actually have we've got a huge ancient wood tree within our tent. So if you head over just to the waterfront area, just where all the food is, we're the first tent on the left-hand side. We've got loads of trees.
You will know us by our woodland in the tent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Joe. Lovely talking to you.